A 2-year-old girl charmingly steals popcorn from Jimin, and his reaction will melt your heart. Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Where are you watching us from? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring stories. Help us reach 1,000 subscribers, and don't miss the end of this video. It all began during a highly anticipated fan meet and greet in the heart of Los Angeles in December 2023. Jimin, loved by millions for his humility and kindness, was sitting quietly in the front row, enjoying a rare moment of peace. What he didn't know was that his most memorable encounter of the night wouldn't come from the Quasar photographers, but from an unexpected source: a bold little girl named Sofi Bennett. Sofi, a curious 2-year-old with golden curls and big blue eyes, had attended the event with her mother, Emily. Emily, a single mother in her 30s, was an aspiring screenwriter who had managed to score 2 tickets through a lucky industry connection. She had brought Sofi with the hope that it would be an unforgettable night, though not in the way she imagined. Sitting just 3 seats away from Jimin, Sofi became fascinated by the buttery smell of the popcorn he had in his lap. Ignoring the sea of adults and flashing cameras, she stumbled over to him and without hesitation reached into his popcorn bucket. The crowd froze for a second, unsure of what would happen next. Jimin's reaction was to break into the warmest and most genuine smile anyone had ever seen. Instead of getting upset, he leaned down, whispered something to Sofi that made her giggle, and offered her the bucket. What no one knew was that Sofi's innocent gesture sparked a wave of memories in Jimin, an achingly sweet echo of moments he had shared with his own younger sister years ago, long before life became so complicated. Emily, mortified, rushed over to grab Sofi, repeatedly apologizing, but Jimin stopped her. "It's okay," he said with that characteristic calm, crouching down to Sofi's level. "Popcorn tastes better when shared." His simple but profound words seemed like a metaphor for the kind of person he was, someone who found beauty in the small human connections. Jimin's reaction brought a flood of bittersweet memories, reminding him of moments spent sharing popcorn with his younger sister. The memory overwhelmed him, and his throat tightened. Emily noticed a change in his expression for a brief moment. "Are you okay?" she asked softly, her voice barely audible over the murmur of conversations around them. Jimin nodded, offering a small smile. "She reminds me of someone," he replied, his voice carrying a tenderness that was both comforting and heartbreaking. Emily didn't press further, sensing the weight of his words. As the event went on, Jimin stayed close to Emily and Sofi, talking with them as if they were old friends. Emily, who had been struggling as a single mother since Sofi's father left them before she was born, felt an unexpected sense of peace in his presence. There was something about him, his humility, his warmth, that made her feel seen in a way she hadn't in years. When the event ended, Jimin insisted on accompanying them to their car, shielding them from the throngs of paparazzi waiting outside. As they stood in the parking lot under the streetlight's glow, Emily hesitated before speaking. "I don't know if you'll remember this night in a week or a month," she started, her voice trembling. "But you've made this night special for my daughter and me too." Jimin looked down at Sofi, who had fallen asleep in Emily's arms, clutching a small handful of popcorn. "I'll remember," he said quietly. "Moments like this are the reason I keep going." Emily felt tears welling up in her eyes. "You have no idea how much this means to us." Jimin paused as if carefully weighing his next words. "If you ever need someone to talk to or just want to take Sofi to the movies again," he said, handing her a folded piece of paper, "call me." Emily unfolded the paper after he walked away. It wasn't just a phone number, it was an address, along with a handwritten note that read, "To new beginnings, let's keep sharing popcorn." In the days that followed, Emily debated whether to contact him. She didn't want to come across as just another fan trying to insert herself into his life. But one night, as Sofi hugged her stuffed bunny and asked about the popcorn man, Emily made a decision. She sent a letter to the address, pouring her heart out. She wrote about her struggles as a single mother, the dreams she'd had to put on hold, and the unexpected comfort she found in their brief encounter. She never expected a response. But 2 weeks later, a small package arrived at her door. Inside was a handwritten note from Jimin. "Life has been hard for both of us, it seems. Maybe we can help each other make it a little easier. How about some popcorn this Saturday? Just the three of us. Emily sat down, hands trembling, tears rolling down her face. She wasn't sure if this was the beginning of something extraordinary or just a fleeting act of kindness from a man who had experienced more pain than most could imagine. But one thing she knew for sure, she no longer felt like she was walking this path alone. Saturday arrived faster than Emily had expected. She spent the morning pacing her small apartment, unsure if Jimin would actually show up or if it had all been just a momentary act of kindness. She kept telling herself not to expect too much. But exactly at 3 p.m., there was a soft knock at the door. When she opened it, Jimin was there holding a large bucket of popcorn and a bouquet of daisies. His signature black jacket was gone, replaced by a simple gray sweater, and his smile was warm, almost shy. "I wasn't sure if the daisies were too much," he said awkwardly, handing them over. Emily smiled, her nerves melting away instantly. "They're perfect." Sofi, who had been coloring on the floor, looked up and shouted, "The popcorn man!" She ran over to him, wrapping her little arms around his legs. Jimin crouched down to her level, handing her the popcorn. "For you, little lady," he said, ruffling her curls. At 3 p.m., there was a soft knock on the door. When Emily opened it, Jimin was standing there holding a giant bucket of popcorn and a bouquet of daisies. His signature black jacket was gone, replaced by a simple gray sweater, and his smile was warm, almost shy. "I wasn't sure if the daisies were too much," he said, awkwardly extending them. Emily's nerves melted away instantly. "They're perfect." Sofi, who had been coloring on the floor, looked up and shouted, "The popcorn man!" She ran to him, wrapping her little arms around his legs. Jimin crouched down to her level, handing her the popcorn. "For you, little lady," he said, ruffling her curls. What followed was a surprisingly normal afternoon. They watched Sofi's favorite animated movie, pausing it every few minutes as she insisted on pointing out her favorite scenes. Jimin didn't mind at all. In fact, he seemed genuinely interested, asking questions and laughing at the amazed explanations the little girl gave. For Emily, the scene felt surreal. There was one of the most famous men in the world, sitting cross-legged on her worn carpet, sharing popcorn with her daughter, as if they had known each other forever. But beneath her gratitude, a flicker of doubt crept in. Why would someone like him be interested in their lives? Later, when Sofi fell asleep on the couch, Emily finally asked the question that had been lingering in her mind. "Why us? Why are you here?" Jimin's smile faded and he leaned back, staring at the ceiling for a long moment before answering. "Because I know what it feels like to think the world has moved on without you. To feel alone," he said, his voice cracking slightly. Emily's heart ached when she heard the vulnerability in his tone. Jimin continued, sharing fragments of his past, the loss of his best friend, the unimaginable pain of losing his younger sister to leukemia, and later, his mother. "I've spent years trying to make sense of so many losses," he admitted. "And sometimes someone like Sofi comes along, and she reminds me that life doesn't have to be perfect to be beautiful." Tears rolled down Emily's cheeks. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. Jimin shook his head. "Don't be sorry. Meeting you both feels like I've found a small piece of that beauty again." The words hung in the air, heavy with emotion. Emily wanted to say something to thank him for his honesty, but she couldn't find the right words. Instead, she reached out and took his hand, offering the quiet comfort he didn't know he needed. Over the following months, Jimin became a constant presence in their lives. He would stop by with groceries, help Sofi with her art projects, and even encourage Emily to pursue her dreams of becoming a screenwriter again. Slowly, he became more than just a friend. But as their bond deepened, so did Emily's fear. Could this really last? Was Jimin too good to be true? Or would the inevitable challenges of life pull them apart? In the back of her mind, Emily wondered if she was ready to open her heart again. Months passed, and what had begun as a casual encounter blossomed into something Emily could never have imagined. Jimin's presence in their lives brought a warmth that she hadn't felt in years. In the following months, Jimin's presence in their lives brought a warmth Emily hadn't felt in years. However, there was always a part of her that wondered if it was all too good to be true. One crisp autumn afternoon, Jimin invited Emily and Sofi to a peaceful picnic at Griffith Park. The sun was starting to set, bathing the city in golden hues. Sofi ran ahead, chasing butterflies, her laughter echoing through the trees. Jimin and Emily laid out a blanket in a secluded spot under a massive oak tree. "Do you ever think about where life is taking you?" Jimin asked, his voice soft, almost hesitant. Emily looked at him, surprised. "Every day," she admitted. "It's hard not to, when life keeps throwing you curveballs." Jimin nodded, looking down at his hands. "I've been thinking a lot about that lately. How life is full of losses, but also moments like this. Moments I don't want to let go of." Emily's heart skipped a beat as she looked at him, trying to read the tenderness and uncertainty in his eyes, as if he were on the verge of saying something he wasn't sure how to express. Before she could respond, Sofi came running back, her cheeks flushed from playing. "Popcorn man," she exclaimed, holding a dandelion. "Make a wish." Jimin took the flower and blew on it, sending the tiny seeds floating in the breeze. "All set," he said, smiling at Sofi. "What did you wish for?" Emily chuckled lightly but curiously asked, "What did you wish for?" Jimin hesitated, then turned toward her, his gaze firm. "I wished for courage," he whispered. Emily tilted her head. "Courage for what?" "To ask you this." He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Time seemed to stop as he opened it, revealing a delicate gold ring, simple but dazzling. "Emily Bennett," he said, his voice trembling slightly. "You and Sofi have given me something I thought I'd lost forever. A reason to believe in love, in family, in second chances. I don't want to let it go. Will you marry me?" Emily's hand flew to her mouth, tears filling her eyes. For a moment, she couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. She looked at Sofi, who was clapping with joy, and then back at Jimin, whose eyes reflected both hope and vulnerability. "Yes," she whispered, her voice breaking. 1,000 times yes." Jimin slid the ring onto her finger, his hand steady despite the emotion shining in his eyes. Sofi rushed into his lap, shouting with excitement. Jimin wrapped his arms around both of them, holding them like they were the most precious treasures in the world. But their story didn't end there. In the following weeks, their engagement became a source of joy and healing, not just for them, but for everyone who knew them. Jimin, known for his quiet solitude, seemed to radiate a new light. He took Emily to film sets, introducing her to people who could help revive her career as a screenwriter. In turn, Emily helped Jimin open up in ways he never had before. They spent long nights talking about their pasts, their fears, and their dreams. She listened to him without judgment, offering him a safe space to cry and grow. The day of their wedding came, a small, intimate gathering at a vineyard in Napa Valley. Not a single eye was dry. Sofi, wearing a flower crown, proudly acted as the ring bearer, walking down the aisle with a small basket of petals. When Jimin and Emily exchanged their vows, their words weren't just promises. They were acknowledgments of the pain and losses that had brought them to this moment, and the love that had held them together. "I promise to share every piece of popcorn with you," Jimin said, causing the guests to laugh. Then his voice grew serious. "And I promise not to take a single moment for granted, because you and Sofi are my everything." Emily's vows were just as emotional. "I never thought I'd find someone who could love me just as I am, with all my scars and everything. But you came into our lives and showed me that love isn't about perfection. It's about being present, even when it's hard. I will spend the rest of my life being present for you." When they kissed, sealing their vows, the guests erupted in applause, but for Emily and Jimin, the noise faded into the background. The only thing that mattered was the life they were starting together, a life built on love, resilience, and an unwavering belief that even the most broken hearts can find their way home. And as Sofi tugged at Jimin's hand, asking for another round of popcorn, the three of them laughed, knowing that this was only the beginning of their beautiful, imperfect, and extraordinary adventure.